say something next time. I'll say something next time.
I'll say something next time.
I'll say something next time.
I'll say something next time.
I'll say something next time.
I'll say something next time.
I'll say something next time.
I'll say something next time.
Good late morning, early afternoon, folks. For all those tuning in via YouTube, via Facebook. Today's topic is the review of the documentary Witnesses on the Oxygen Network. This is a little bit different topic where I believe that it won't be much laughter that we usually have. This topic is based off the documentary. The documentary was about sexual abuse in the Jehovah's Witness Church. This is not to attack nobody's religion. It's basically to talk about sexual abuse in organizations and the cover up that goes on. So this morning, early afternoon, we got Drea, who has contributed to the show as usual plenty of times. She used to be a Jehovah's Witness, so she can give us some insight as well as she watched the documentary. What's up, Drea?
Hey everyone. Hey Q, what's going on?
So tell us what was your thoughts about the documentary?
So when I actually seen the initial marketing advertisement for the documentary, I had to clutch my pearls a bit because I knew that they was going to say, oh my God, this is the works of the devil or Satan the devil, and that, it's the apostates, as you kept hearing in the documentary. I felt it was about time because there's a lot of cover up. There's a lot of shaming and blaming and guilt that people go through by being one of the Jehovah's Witnesses, even especially if you are a child. I grew up as a Jehovah's Witness. My mom is still one. I'm thankful that, my mom, we still have a great relationship, despite me being inactive and not participating in religion. But the sexual abuse was just, it knocked me off my feet. It took a lot of wind out of me because you always hear about the Catholic Church, you hear about other churches dealing with sexual abuse, but you don't hear about, Jehovah's Witnesses, because you look at it as like, wow, these people, and it's a pacifiers religion because, they don't vote, they don't participate in any type of violence. It's a very strong, disciplined religion, but you don't hear about the scandals, right? Until someone's like, yo, let me put y'all on Front Street on what happened to me. And I have to come in, the people who's coming up forward saying, hey, I've been sexually abused, especially by the presiding overseer. So let's talk about presiding overseer. When I was growing up, I grew up in a mainly all Black congregation in Boston. I actually went to a congregation at Roxbury, so you can't get no Blacker than that. And so the presiding overseer is like next to God. Matter of fact, me and my homegirls, the presiding overseer over my congregation, we used to call him Hove. We used to be like, Hove,
Wow.
we used to be like, Hove is not going to have that. And so, like, we didn't hear much about sexual abuse, period. Just reading about it in the Watchtowers and the Wake magazine. You'll hear about it if it happens in your family. What do you do if your child's been molested or sexually abused? What's the next steps? And of course, it was like, all right, call the police because they're not in the organization. Now, if they're in the organization, how do you handle that? And as you see, okay, you go in the back room. We always say you don't want to go in the back room because that's when you know you're in trouble. So you go in the back room and you're telling your whole like sexual abuse case. And so you're re-victimizing yourself and opening yourself up to trauma and drama and the wounds that, you're trying to heal. Like I said, in my congregation, we haven't had no situations like that, but we have had situations in which, of course, people committed adultery, fornication, and you have to even explain explicitly all the things that you have done and have to prevent it as they talk about this fellowship. What I was blown away by was the first case in which they allowed their daughter to go spend the night at the presiding overseer's house. This is the one in Oklahoma. And I'm like, he didn't have any kids. The wife didn't, because usually the wife, they have kids, you have sleepovers. I went to plenty. And, the wife didn't have any kids from my knowledge. And they let her stay in the car with him by herself. And I was like, usually you have chaperones. But when she was like, oh, well, they dropped off, the sisters, and it was him and I, and you're a minor, I have a big problem with that. Because that, like I said, for me, from my own experience, I haven't experienced that. Usually you have a chaperone, and usually you're not with, like, you're a little child, you're a young girl with an older man. That was always a no-no. So I was very disgusted by that. And how did all these people turn a blind eye to this child being raped, I think, for like 6 years? Then they flipped the script on her, was like, oh, well, what was you doing? What was you wearing? Like, it was pretty much like her fault. And I was like, yo, that is just awful. And then you're explaining to your dad, which is the elder, and the rest of the elders who are men. And let's talk about that real quick, because that's another thing too. If you are a woman, you're only meant to serve and go out in the kingdom ministry and be a pioneer. You can't have a say so on, like, hold on, wait, like, let me be a mediator, let me be an advocate for this child. You're telling your sexual abuse case to all men, and then you're gonna say, well, forgive him, and Jehovah's gonna take care of it. Like, I was like, no, that's awful. I'm glad that, like I said, the layers are being peeled back, and I hope that the people are getting some type of healing. And the other case I was disturbed about was when the young lady, I think in Pennsylvania, her sister-in-law and the guy pretty much like was continuously raping this child, and you're the sister-in-law. So how can you as a human live with that with your conscience? You seeing this young lady all the time, you're in her family, you're married to her brother, and you are pretty much an accomplice to this crime.
Yeah, just to put, I'll put the number up for the National Sex Abuse Hotline. I'm gonna put the number up, and that is one organization. It's the acronym is called RAIN.org, and that is the Rape, Abuse, Incest National Network. For anybody that knows somebody that may have been abused or is being abused, they can contact that number to get some help and get some information. And this is a good way to, like I said, to seek help, because these are religious organizations, and like the Boys Club is in the news, right? I mean, not the Boys and Girls Club. The Boy Scouts is in the news right now about it too, as well. It's going bankrupt. They actually do act as a form of a secret society,
right? Because
nobody basically wants to shine on their organization for these reasons. I know that the guy Trey Bundy, who did the documentary, he actually said that the way that the Kingdom Hall and Watchtower, everything is set up, it's like a pedophile paradise, because nothing is reported to the authorities. Basically, It's like everything is written down on a note, and it's passed on. And if it gets worse, it gets passed on. Always gets to the Watchtower in New York.
Right. And let's talk about that real quick, because like if you are a Jehovah's Witness, even if you like, let's say you're born into it, because the only reason why you get baptized, you just don't, when you're born into the religion, you're not automatically a Jehovah's Witness. You have to be baptized. So you have to do a series of studies, answer questions. They have to really, quote unquote, thoroughly screen you and make sure that you have repented your ways if you had, sin and did all type of stuff. And then you're studying with an elder. And usually it's like an elder, then, a sister. So like I said, it's pretty much different. You have a male and a female, and yourself if you're a young lady or a male. Answer questions and be like, okay, yes, I'm going to fully commit and dedicate my life to Jehovah. And then your files travel with you. So everything that you do as far as with the ministry, they document it, you document it. So what they call like a self-declaration paper. So, you have your pen and paper, and you're pretty much documenting how many hours you spent in the field ministry a week, how many people you have talked to, how many watchtowers a week, and booklets that you have placed. And if they're looking at it, and if you're, if you are a pioneer, you're pretty much putting in 40 hours a week. And so you have to meet a certain quota, a certain time, to make sure that you are up to standard according to the organization. And you kept hearing organization a lot, because it's the organization. Like I said, the pros about it, they're very organized, they're structured, but there's a lot of cover up as well, and also to the treatment of women, because you cannot have any position but be a pioneer and just serve other people. So going back to the file, so when I decided to, my story is not a sexual abuse story. When I decided to go to college at Tuskegee, it was a lot of issues around that, because they don't want you to, they limit secular education. They frown on, college and university, because Armageddon's coming, because you kept hearing about Armageddon, this is the time of the end. And why would you go get a secular education? Because you're surrounded by worldly people, which is like, people who are not part of the organization, and they're going to taint you, right? So it was a lot of controversy when I decided to go to college. I think I was the first one in my congregation of like, yo, I'm out, I'm going to college. And one of my homegirls, ended up going to Howard. They had a big meeting with myself and my mom and was like, well, why are you letting her, go to college? Especially out of state. She's going to be tainted. She's going to do all these things. And I'm like, dang, y'all been knowing me for 18 years of my life. Like, I have been walking, in my eyes, the straight path. A lot of my friends who, who their parents was either elders or like strong in the organization, like either they had to leave. A lot of them end up, getting pregnant early because they couldn't participate in extracurricular activity. Like, I played ball my whole entire time in high school. So like my upbringing is different because my mom is a Jehovah's Witness, but my dad, is not. So I had that balance in which, my parents, even though they divorced, they still co-parented and said, well, let Andrea make her own decision as well. So like I said, it was a big controversy, and like my record followed me to Tuskegee. And so I got treated so bad. Like, I'm talking about ostracized, like, hold on, wait, why are you, from Boston down here, attending college? We frown on that, this, that, and the other. So the same treatment that the young ladies received, like I received that, and that was just on like a basic, I just want to continue my education scale.
So you were basically getting ostracized because you were trying to pursue your education, and we're just, and in the documentary we're talking about women being ostracized because they were molested as kids. So,
right.
So it's common for somebody to be ostracized for basically going out into the world or stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Right, exactly. And like you said, going out to the world, because now you're becoming worldly. Now you are taking on the thinking of the world, and now Satan and devil can definitely have a hold on you because you're kind of being an independent thinker, and they frown upon that heavily. Just like in the documentary, when the first young lady, I can't think of her name, was like, well, I think I like females. At this point in time in my life, and how they, pretty much like, you can't see your son. I have seen situations like that in which the mom or the dad may say, you know what, I'm tapping into a different sexuality, and they have kids. They're like, oh no, the kids are always with the grandparents who are Jehovah's Witnesses, and they have like this, I don't want to say a restraining order, but they have like this weird dynamic in which like they cannot see this child. And I think sometimes they go to court, to say, hey, this parent's an unfit parent. And so, and they give them the reasons why. And a lot of times too, they may know the person, and then they're like, all right, you have temporary custody till this person, gets worked out or repent from their ways. And you cannot be homosexual and as a Jehovah's Witness. That's a big no-no. You're going to get disfellowship. For even thinking that, like even thinking that, and you're like, hey, I got to go tell the elders that I thought of, confusing, whatever you like to think about, my homosexuality, I may be that, I may be a lesbian, I may be gay, and you have to pretty much go in the back room and confess that, and you're being disfellowship.
So for those that's watching the documentary, it's called Witnesses. It's on the Oxygen Network. I think it aired like 2 weeks ago. Somebody had inboxed me and told me this would be a good subject matter to talk on the show. So I watched the documentary as well as Andrea. And you could probably, it's on your Fire Stick. If you got a Fire Stick, just go on the documentaries and type in Witnesses. It'll pop up. It's two it's two parts to the documentary.
Yeah.
Somebody said it's like disfellowshipped. I guess the person that said that is a Jehovah Witness and knows something about just Jehovah
Right.
Witnesses. Drea, just want to give some people some background information on sexual abuse. Is every 73 seconds one person is assaulted. Every 9 minutes it's a child. 1 in 6 women will be assaulted in their lifetime. 2 out of 3 between 12 and 17. 1 in 9 girls and 1 in 53 boys under 18 experience sexual abuse or sexual assault at the hands of an adult. Females 16 through 19 are 4 times more likely than the general population to be victims of rape, attempted rape, or sexual assault. 4 times more likely to develop symptoms of drug abuse. 4 times more likely to experience PTSD. 3 times more likely to experience depressive opioid addiction as adults. So these are statistics. Some of the statistics that I got from the RAINN.org network. It's very easy to Google for those that's watching. You could Google RAINN.org, and they have a statistics section as well, and you can look at it. Okay,
Right.
This is a question. Oh, it's Kay. My whole family is Jehovah's Witness. I'm the only one that's not. I don't judge them because I love them, so we just don't discuss. But I surely watched the documentary and was like this. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. Because go ahead, Dre. Finish saying what you were saying.
No. I was saying right about
So you
that.
go
Like,
to this. I'm not, like I said, I'm not, my purpose, because I'm not a Jehovah's Witness, is I'm
yeah.
not trying to attack a religion. I don't believe in that, but I do want to. The sexual abuse is something that I don't think that we take serious in our communities. Definitely when it comes to men, because I think a lot of men won't discuss it as well. But one of the things that I wanted to ask you is, so you go into this back room for like everything. It's like, you don't want to go back there. So it's like the scary room when you're a kid.
Right. It's a scary room when you're a kid because you, like I said, what me and my homegirl said, you gotta deal with Hove. That was our presiding overseer. And he already had this you thinking about like a 6'3", 6'4", dark-skinned brother, who just didn't play. And he was like, a lot of people's father figures who didn't have a father or their father wasn't part of the organization, right? So you're telling him and a whole bunch of elders that been knowing you since your mom was pregnant with you, and you're going in and telling something that's been weighing on your conscience, because we do all have a conscience, right? And so you're sitting around this table and you're like, oh man, I'm in trouble. And then your fate is decided by these men. Of course they pray about it, and then if Jehovah tells them, yes or yeah or nay, then also you're going to part 2 or part 3 of your names getting read off the platform. So you talking about guilt, you talking about shame, you're talking about embarrassment, and you're talking about another layer of trauma. And I'm coming from I'm talking about the social work side now. I'm putting my social work hat on now. So you're dealing with that. Your parents, you may live in that same household as your parents. But this is for folks who's been baptized. And you may have did something, you live in the same household as your parents, and they have limited, when I'm talking about limited, very limited communication. So of course, when you're dealing with that, your parents, you love them, and you've been this fellowship, so not only are being shunned from the congregation, but your parents and your family members are also looking at you like, oh, I can't talk to you. So you might as well just go ahead and not go to the barbecue, because matter of fact, you're gonna get because you've been in this fellowship. I know people have came back after a year, like, because you have to really show that, hey, I'm going to the Kingdom Hall to be listen to, Sunday discourse, whatever the case is. You can't participate. You can't even go out in the field ministry. All you're doing is pretty much just proving yourself that you have turned around from your actions of sin, and what's the word? You're repenting, and you have to be remorseful from it.
My okay, Drea dropped for a second. She'll be back. There she go.
Okay.
All right, you back, Drea. Okay,
I'm back.
Drea, my friend said, just like my sister Drea, who said this. She said, my family member was an elder and came down on this girl, and she said, you need to ask your daughters. You need to ask your daughter. She said, hold up. You need to ask your daughters. She tried it. I wanted to beat her up for them, but I didn't want to say no more. She said, the whole can't talk to you. That whole can't talk to you. This is big. I judge my family off it. Like, how you not speaking to your family over things that you possibly did before you got baptized and might still be doing? But I won't
Yeah.
say no more.
Yes. Facts.
Speak to that, Drea.
Facts. That's so facts because like you had for instance, my mom became a Jehovah's Witness. I think my brothers was about 3 and 5 because it's a big age difference between my brothers and I. So imagine you're like 3 or 5 years old, you celebrating Christmas, you celebrating holidays, and like my mom's like, no one celebrating anything, and that included my dad. Now my dad had a choice because, like I said, my dad is Baptist, different religion, and my dad, didn't convert over to Jehovah's Witness. So, to go from shunning someone that you just was celebrating Christmas, and then to go and be like, yo, I'm not rocking with you. You're disfellowship over the same thing. I always had a big issue with that. I also had a big issue with, not being friends with folks who are from different, backgrounds from myself. Growing up in Boston, you come across all type of folks, and I'm not just talking about, just ethnicities. I'm talking about religion. And, me going to like a math and science high school with, my friends with different type of religion. And it's like, oh, you can only have limited conversations. But me, I'm a rebel with a cause. I'm like, ain't nobody gonna tell me who to talk to. And plus, I went to high school with some of people in my congregation, and I saw how they was getting down. And I was like, fam, they doing what they want, and their fathers was elders. So it's like the PK kids getting reckless and doing all type of stuff.
I'm gonna ask you a question now. Now looking back at it, and you grew up in it, and then getting your education. You got 2 master's degrees, right?
I have my bachelor's and master's.
Okay, got your now looking back at it, and then knowing you got a master's in social work. Why do you think in religious organizations as well as the Boy Scouts from what we just seen, why you think it's not being addressed?
I think it's a form of power and control because of the society, and I'm talking about us as a society living here. Let's just talk about United States for a minute. We think of these organizations as like, wow, they're like the pillars of community, right? They are the sanctuary, they're the sacred space of our communities. These are places we can go to and worship together. They're part of our community. Also too, we may donate to them. Our grandmothers or great grandmothers has been converted over to this part of this religion or this church. They've been there for 400 years since slavery. And so I think a lot of people, continuously support them and not uncover. See, 2020 is a year of uncovering. That's how I look at it. This is it's all about clearing up some ish that a lot of stuff that's been going on for centuries. 2020 is the year of like, yo, we about to unpeel some layers and expose some people. So I'm not surprised that this documentary came out, but people are going to be like, oh wow, Jehovah's Witnesses are not squeaky clean as they portray to be. They're humans. They're humans.
I think that some of the people you said 2020, I think some of the people that's into numerology agree with you with that. I think that was something I saw the other day when I was doing some research.
Right.
One person said one of my closest friends grew up in the Jehovah's Witness. She said it is a cult. Her mother does not speak to her to this day, and it was over 25 years ago. She had a mental breakdown because of her experiences during her time as a Jehovah's Witness. And like I said, this happens, I believe, in all religions. I think it's more of it's a concerted effort to cover it up.
Right.
Like the way you explained it and the way that I looked at it in the documentary, and to my limited knowledge, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that if you're somebody in the Jehovah's Witness church, like somebody big. Like if it's an overseer, he's like basically untouchable.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that would be the same way in certain other aspects of religion. Depending on who you are, you kind of like have like a carte blanche type of thing within the group.
Right. And the kids too, because like I said, with the presiding overseer, I went to high school with one of his daughters, and I mean she was wilding out. One of the elders I went to high school with one of their daughters wilding out because like I said, I grew up with all of them. So when your dad is Hove, right? You are constantly under a microscope. You can't do anything. So I like to see the statistics of like those whose dads was presiding overseer and look at their life now. A lot of times they're like, look, I'm a rebel with a cause. I got to get up out of here, or I'm going to get in trouble anyway. So I just might as well just go all the way extreme. And usually when you see Jehovah's Witnesses like leaving the organization, they're kind of very extreme too. And like your friend said about the mental breakdown, you see a lot of that. You see a lot of mental health in the Jehovah's Witness organization because people haven't dealt with their trauma. You're kind of not like, you kind of like can't go and get therapy because that's not encouraged. What you laughing about?
I'm not laughing at you. It's just my friend Kay, when she start, she don't even be realizing she be saying funny stuff. But this is what she said. She said, I agree, sis, uncovering because I'm a Christian and I'm tired of people coming for the church only. Human is human and we all make mistakes. Then
Right.
she said, yes. She said, yes, the overseer come in and check on the elders and make sure they're doing right. She said, a friend of mine became Jehovah's Witness and a guy asked out and she said, if the elder can come too.
Yeah.
He said, I'm 47. I don't need no babysitter. But you got a question from my friend Kevin.
Okay.
He said, I'm not sure if you have kids, talking about you, Drea. He said, yeah, but if you do, are you going to introduce them to your upbringing or let them find their own way? What would you do?
I don't have kids yet, but I do want my kids to have their own way because I feel like they should have a choice on, what type of spirituality practices or what type of religious practices they would like to choose. I know my mom will probably like, oh my God, they should come to the Kingdom Hall with me. Okay, cool. But also too, there's going to be a boundary to that. Like, no, they're not going to be raised Jehovah's Witness. I still carry on some of the practices. Like sometimes I don't celebrate, holidays. My husband and I, we don't do that. We decide to do our own tradition so we can just have our own thing going on instead of just, have to follow the footsteps of my mom or, or my parents, whatever the case is.
Yeah, one of the someone on Facebook said, I always find it interesting that religions that find a way to Africa. What's interesting is Jehovah's Witness is one religion that didn't maintain a strong presence in the African culture. Of course, this person asked and said it was basically compared to devil worshiping. I know that your husband is African. I don't think this person on Facebook knew that.
Yeah.
And how would the Jehovah's Witnesses' belief conflict with African spirituality?
Oh my God, that's something that you would never, ever, ever intertwine or interconnect or even have a discussion about. Because anytime you're talking about deities, orishas and stuff of that nature, or babalaos, that is like witchcraft according to Jehovah's Witnesses. Even like I'm into numerology. I'm big into numerology. They will be like, you disfellowship just based off of reading the title. Because I remember growing up, you know how you had in a newspaper, well, I know in the Boston Globe, you had like the astrology and stuff like that. There was like, you better skip that page because, you always feel like, oh my God, Jehovah is going to come get me or the elder is going to come get me. So you would never even put those, you even hear about it in a watchtower, like how to stay away from like spirituality because certain spirits can get in your house and disrupt your lifestyle. Like okay, I believe that bad spirits, I definitely believe that. So like just me, let's say saging my house, because I sage my house. My mom will probably come over here and had a whole heart attack if she see me saging my house. Or even just me reading numerology and researching that, she would have like a whole heart attack if you know she was to come here and be like, hold on, what's this numerology book? But my mom and I, we have, like I said, we have a good relationship, and sometimes I have to put her in her place. Like, listen, you know, I don't practice. You know, I'm not a practicing Jehovah's Witness, so you can't come over here and judge. And what I didn't like, another thing too, is they're very judgmental. I remember I had to check my mom so many times on like just being judgmental on, like, let's say people's attire. What if this person's a domestic violence you know, victim, and that's the only thing they can wear to the Kingdom Hall? You know, whether it was like a short skirt, whatever the case is, very judgmental people. So you know how people be like, oh, you know, you have a lot of judgmental people on Sundays. I absolutely agree with that, because people judge folks from the outside instead of seeing what's in their heart. And they always like, oh, well, Jehovah reads your heart. So, but that's why you gotta come back to the Kingdom Hall. Well, if he reads my heart, then he know that I can worship him anywhere that I go. And also too, the God is within me. I'm a God, I'm a goddess. And when you say that, like, I remember I told my mother that my mother almost had a heart attack, and I had to show her the Bible, like, God created us, like, the God is within us, we're the God, we're the goddesses. And she's like, oh, but still, like, you trying to say you God? And I'm like, oh my God. So it's just a lot of controversy you have.
Yes. Yeah, because I know one of the things that me and you had shared behind the scenes was when I told you I knew Oba. Right. Oba, for the audience, my friend Oba is an African spiritualist priest, and a lot of us have been taught that, you know, voodoo is wrong and voodoo is evil, and it's basically African spirituality. If you don't understand about it, most of us follow those traditions. Most of us have those traditions, and we'll be like, my people's from the South and this, that, and the third. And we were used to having the fork and the spoon in the kitchen, the wooden fork and spoon in the kitchen, and horseshoe over the door and stuff like this. All this has to do with African spirituality. One thing I wanted to point out about the documentary was that the settlement, the Jehovah's Witness, the Watchtower, they did reach 2 settlements. I think one was for like 30 million, right, and one for 20 million.
Exactly.
As well as the way the Jehovah's Witness Church is set up, for the listening audience that didn't get a chance to see the documentary, is that everything that you've ever done in the Jehovah's Witness Church is documented. So if you were a victim of sexual abuse and you reported it, there is a record, paper, and now it's digital.
Right.
So they're trying to get subpoenas to all those records that's actually just sitting at the Watchtower in a database. So, like I said, if you've been sexually abused or know somebody being sexually abused, call that 1-800 number that's on the screen and try to get some help and try to get some assistance, because you do deserve justice for someone taking advantage of you.
Right.
Oh, she told me don't call it a church. They died dead. That's Kingdom Hall.
Thank you. Sis. Don't call it a church. It's a Kingdom Hall, and they will correct you in 2.5 seconds. So it's a Kingdom Hall.
She was telling me that majority of the members of Kingdom Hall, Jehovah's Witnesses, they're very educated when they come to know in the Bible. So
right. So yes. So that's a fact, because as far as with my public speaking skills, I mean, like, they can teach you and will critique you on your public speaking skills when they was talking about presentation, and you will be like mad educated when it comes to like speaking, being an orator, even researching, knowing Bible scriptures. I give them that hands down, because they know their stuff. Like I said, when I was living in Boston, my mom, when she was first introduced to Jehovah's Witnesses, she was going to a congregation in Cambridge. This is way before I was born. And they had a lot of Harvard University, alum that, was Jehovah's Witnesses. So a lot of them are lawyers, and they go on to work at the headquarters. A lot of them are nurses, doctors. I don't know if you guys know Prince. I don't know if he was baptized, but he was heavily into, being a Jehovah's Witness. Also, too, Larry Graham is a devout Jehovah's Witness. So they reach out to celebrities, and they feel like if we can reach out to celebrities, they're going to pretty much speak the good news, as they call it, to other folks. So yeah, it's very interesting to know. And also too, Michael Jackson, his whole family was Jehovah's Witnesses, but suffered of that. Let me put this disclaimer out there. So when Michael Jackson did Thriller, y'all remember Thriller, he had to write a letter to society to say, I am disassociating myself from Jehovah's Witnesses, because they felt that Thriller was demonic and bringing reproach on Jehovah's name. So he had to pretty much say, I'm done with y'all, in order for me to make Thriller. So just have to put that disclaimer out there. I think his mom is still a Jehovah's Witness, but the rest of his family, no.
One of the things that she mentioned was when her family members would do talking engagements at Kingdom Hall, she would go and support. But then when she would do talking engagements somewhere else, they would never come.
Mm-hmm.
So that she had mentioned that, and they said they can't come in churches. Like
no.
they won't, like a Jehovah's Witness won't come into church
unless it's a funeral for a family member. Like I know that's the only time like my mom go to church, unless it's a funeral for a family member. That is it. If you having a wedding, honey, you gonna see them at the reception. You will not be seeing them at the church.
Also, one of the things she just said was Marcus Houston is
yes,
now a Jehovah's Witness. Wonder if he gonna sing naked, huh?
He probably.
So is there any? Is there anything you'd like to add, like from the documentary?
Yeah. So this is what I wanted to add, and I have it in my notes here about them being mandated reporters. I'm very disturbed by that. Everyone should be a mandate reporter, and that's including religious figures. And only 26 states have reported laws to only include clergy as mandate reporters. Whenever you have any type of abuse going on within your religious organization, I think that everyone should be a mandate reporter. And that's how more of these religious sects and even these societies can cover up pedophilia, by not having to be a mandate reporter. They need to revise the laws for everyone. Everyone should have to adhere to a certain law of mandate reporting, and also breaking confidentiality with that. And that's how you see a lot of Catholic churches. You can say your confession, go say 10 hallelujahs, and you are, set free. And I see it's like in a connection with, Jehovah's Witnesses. Yeah, go sit out for a year, and then you know what, you can be reproved back into the Kingdom Hall and be in good status, or you can move your whole self to another Kingdom Hall and act like this never happened. So I feel like there should be some type of some mandate report laws across the board for everyone. And whenever someone have disclosed, hey, I've been sexually abused, or even domestic violence, they should be able to report it and come get that person and put them, they go through this whole trial. That's my opinion about that. But I shouldn't have to answer to a man, and then they're going to decide whether or not I've been sexually abused. Then you didn't have no rape case, no rape kit, right? So they didn't have no type of, how can you prove that? I'm proving it to you. Nah, we need to go to the hospital and get like a rape kit and all type of stuff. And none of that was disclosed. Like none of that.
Yeah, I think I definitely agree. And it's amazing that a lot of times religious organizations will hide behind the laws that they have that protects religion from state, but they won't abide by certain rules. Like
right.
Like a lot of organizations they do have corruption going on, and they are supposed to report it, and they are supposed to say what, definitely when it comes to sexual abuse and domestic violence. I mean, because a lot of that stuff gets swept under the rug,
Right,
like
exactly.
Who's to say like, oh, you gotta come to counseling? I mean, a female or a young kid may not feel comfortable talking to the leader of the organization, because that is like a god figure in most organizations. Like he's the man, or he's the top dog, and I feel uncomfortable talking to him. Or he may have been the perpetrator, so you may not want to deal with him.
Right. Right. So that's a lot of trauma you have to deal with. And I just wanted to bring out too, like I said, this is a year a lot of people are going to be exposed, and with the whole Aretha Franklin, for some reason that came out, the Aretha Franklin documentary, I think the Black church is going to be exposed because they said that her dad, had pedophilia ring and even could possibly, this is allegedly, be the father of her first child, and how James Cleveland, I think that's his name, one of the gospel singers back in the day, was deep into pedophilia. So I think a lot of this stuff is going to be exposed. So let's keep our eyes open. I'm just so thankful that the Jehovah Witnesses were exposed. Like I said, not to tear down any religions, because like I said, once upon a time I was there. My mom's still a Jehovah Witness. I have family members who are Jehovah Witnesses as well, but they need to be exposed, because we always focus on Catholic Church and other religious sects. So, but if you all are part of Jehovah Witness or have family members who been sexually abused, or even I have to say domestic violence as well, because they close a blind eye on domestic violence too. And that could be another topic that they need to report it. I don't care if the elders or the presiding overseer is like, no, go report that, because that's just another layer of trauma that will, that needs to be peeled back and healed.
So, like I said, the 1-800 number on the screen is the number for the sexual abuse hotline. RAIN.org is the organization. It's the acronym stands for Rape, Assault, Incest National Network. So if you yourself have ever been sexually abused, whether you're an adult and you were sexually abused as a child, call that number. Or if you know someone that was sexually abused, pass on the information. Perhaps it may help just one person. If one person gets help from today's show, it's a benefit. One thing I want you to do before we close out, Drea, is explain to our audience where you're going on Friday.
So Friday I'm going back home. I'm going back to the East Coast to go and see Dr. Salam, one of the gentlemen that was part of the Exonerated Five or the Central Park Five. He's actually doing a speaking engagement at Rhode Island College. So one of my homegirls, not only am I going to go celebrate her birthday, but I'm going to go see this great orator and hear his side of the story, because I think it's always, fascinating to hear folks tell their actual experiences live. So that's why I'm going on Friday. And I, can share some of that with you all too later on another podcast as well, that we can do as well. So I'm excited about it, and hopefully, he brings down the house, and whenever he's in your town, go check it out, because I think he is usually at a college campus for free. So can't beat that.
That's Yusef Salam, one of the Exonerated Five. For everybody listening, watching on YouTube or Facebook, like I always say, if you're on YouTube, make sure you like, subscribe, and pass along the information. My friend Kay told me to tell you, Drea, safe travels. She has great energy, very knowledgeable, and Vesting's queen. You see that shirt, Kay? That she wants that shirt, Drea.
I have to find it. Listen, Kay, if I find another one, no lie, Q will pass the information on. I will mail you one, because I had got this shirt like 7 years ago, no lie. But if I find it again, I will definitely pass it on to you.
All right. Thanks everybody for joining us. And
thanks everybody.
We got you. And just like I said, this is a very touchy subject for most people to discuss. Mm-hmm. And I appreciate Drea for coming on and sharing the information. For the person that inboxed me and told me to talk about it, it really opened up my eyes to a lot of the situations that plague our community. And like I said, one of the objectives of me starting a YouTube page was to have these difficult conversations, because the only way that any of us can grow is we have to heal. Yes. So, like I said, everybody have a blessed day, and I'll holler at y'all later.
Bye, everyone.